There are many famous checkmate patterns that we need to remember so we can use them in our games. The first one I would like to show you is called the back rank mate, where the king is left on a back rank just behind his own pawns in their original positions. In this situation, the king is very vulnerable to a checkmate by the rook or a queen on the back rank, because he cannot get out of this rank. His own pawns are standing in his way. This is a valuable pattern to remember, so we can use it in different positions, like this one, for example. As you can see in this position, black has big material advantage, but it's white's turn, and white can easily win this game because the black king is stuck on the back rank behind his own pawns, which are blocking him from getting out of this rank. So this is how white can easily do the back rank checkmate. Here it is, checkmate. Another famous checkmate pattern is the so-called Arabian Mate, which can happen in a position like this one, where white can checkmate in one move. Here it is, rook h7 checkmate. So this is what we call Arabian Mate. And it can also happen if the rook is on g6 instead of f7. So from this position, again, white can easily checkmate in one move, rook g8 checkmate. So this is a kind of reflection of the Arabian Mate. And we can use these patterns in positions like this one, for example. Here, white can easily checkmate in two moves, starting with knight f6 check, giving the black king two choices, either to move to f8 or to h8. Well, if the king moves to f8, he's going to be checkmated by the rook on f7. And if the king moves to h8, he's going to be checkmated by the rook on h7. As you can see, we have the Arabian Mate pattern. Here it is, the Arabian Mate pattern. Now I'm going to show you some basic checkmate patterns with the queen. So, for example, if we have a position like this one, white can checkmate in one move, just by moving their queen to e6. Now the black king is checkmated because the only squares that he can get out of check are blocked by his own rooks. That's why we call this pattern epaulette mate, because the rooks are just unfortunate ornaments on the shoulders of the black king. So this is what we call the epaulette mate. Another basic checkmate pattern is the Swallowtail Mate. It can happen from a position like this one, where white can checkmate on e6 with their queen, because again, the rooks are blocking the king from moving to the only safe squares. This one is called the Swallowtail Mate. And another basic checkmate pattern to remember is the Dovetail Mate. That mate can happen in a position like this one, where the queen can checkmate the black king on c6. This is what we call the Dovetail Mate. They are all similar mates because the only two squares that the black king can get out of checkmate are blocked by his own pieces. So here they are again. This was the Epaulet Mate. This was the Swallowtail Mate. And this is the Dovetail Mate. Another famous checkmate with the queen is the Queen and Bishop Mate. It can happen in a position like this one, where white can checkmate with the following moves. Bishop h7 check, forcing the black king to move to h8. Then bishop g6, again forcing the king to go back to g8. Queen h7 check, and queen takes the pawn on f7 checkmate. So here it is again. Bishop h7 check, bishop g6 discovered check, queen h7 check, and queen f7 checkmate. Different variation of the queen and bishop mate can happen in a position like this one. Here we have a situation where white is threatening checkmate in two moves. Just by moving the bishop out of the h7 square, opening up the discovered check by the queen, forcing the black king to move to g8, followed by queen h7 checkmate. So to defend against this checkmate, black needs to play g6. This opens an escape route for the king via g7 and f6. So can white still checkmate from this position? Yes, they can. There is a checkmate in three moves, starting with queen h6, making sure that the black king remains on h8. Then whatever black play, white can capture the pawn with the bishop on g6, followed by queen h7 check and queen f7 checkmate. So let's see this all over again. After black plays g6, white is moving the queen to h6. There's nothing much black can do from this position. Bishop g6, discovered check by the queen. Queen h7 check, followed by queen f7 checkmate. The last famous checkmate pattern that I would like to show you in this lesson is Gracchus Mate. In this position, white is threatening checkmate in one move. Queen h7 would be checkmate. So the only possible defense for black would be h6. That's the only way black can block off the checkmate on h7. So what can white do here? Let's try bishop f7 check. Can black capture the bishop on f7 with their rook? Let's try this. Rook f7 would be followed by queen f7 check and queen f8 checkmate. Obviously, this doesn't work. So, after the bishop takes the pawn on f7, the only choice for black would be to move their king to h8. Now, the best move for white would be queen g6, threatening checkmate on h7. What can black do? It looks like the only choice for black is to capture the knight on g5. Well, but then the queen goes back to h5, checkmating the black king. So this is what we call Grekus mate. Let's see this all over again. After black's only defense of h6 comes bishop f7 check, king h8, queen g6, black captures the knight on g5 to prevent the checkmate on h7, but now the black king gets checkmated anyway by the queen on h5. So this was Grekus mate.